on this computer. Okay, hi everyone. We are starting off our perinatal series. So for the entire month of February, we are focusing on preconception, preconception prep, pregnancy, postpartum, what that looks like. We are interviewing a bunch of different providers, and today we have this incredible opportunity to interview Dr. Loredana Marcelosh-Sapson. She is a pharmacist, and she's going to hit on, she has a whole presentation, which I'm completely blown away. This is amazing. So you are definitely going to want to sit and maybe review this a couple times and definitely take notes, because the stuff that she's going to cover is going to blow your mind and definitely change your life. So, hey, Dr. Loredana, what's up, girl? How are you?
Hello, how are you? Thank you for having me. I'm really excited to share this with the community.
Oh, we are pumped.
There's a ton of information in here. So guys, grab a pen and paper, screenshot the screen, whatever you got to do to collect all the information. So get ready, buckle up.
Yes. Okay, let's just start with like introduction to you, how you got into the work that you are in currently. How did LifeMod come into fruition?
Sure. So I'm a pharmacist. I worked in pharmacy for 12 years. I managed a CVS pharmacy for a long time, and that job just wasn't fulfilling. And so I realized that just working in that industry, more people just got on more medicine and more medicine and more medicine. And they were starting on them younger and younger and younger. But at the same time, people were coming in still frustrated, still having no answers from their physicians, and still feeling like crap. And so that really drove me to say, well, why are we feeling this way? What is going on? I had my own personal health issues as well. I had recurrent bacterial infections. I had high blood pressure, which was diagnosed when I was 19. I went through 3 doctors. They chalked it up to hereditary. I'm happy to say that I've gone through episodes where I don't need my blood pressure medicine. I was off it for about 1.5 years, and that was through the work that I do here today. It came back because I had a mold exposure, but that's a whole nother story. But just so that you know, I was able to get off of my prescription medication for a long time. And so my work helps me to identify why you're unfeeling well. So it was really my personal health challenges that drove me here. And then I left my job as a pharmacist and I opened up LifeMod. And so this stands for lifestyle modifications. I basically help fix people and help them feel better using food and supplements. And we do it all as natural as possible. And my ultimate goal as a pharmacist, I never thought I'd say, is I want to get people off of their prescriptions. I want to get them off of their over-the-counter reliance. So that is where I get a lot of joy. And so I've been in practice in Newtown for about 3 years now, and I'm loving it. And my patients, it just brings me a lot of joy to do what I do every day. So my goal is to teach you how to live more naturally in this modern world. And today is going to be a great kickstart to that.
Oh yeah, especially when it comes to preconception prep, pregnancy, and postpartum as well. Okay, so let's just start right off. So what are some things that parents should avoid when even thinking about conceiving?
You got it. So we're going to go through a slew of toxic here. So toxins to avoid and common sources. So this is my ultimate goal for you today. Is we are bombarded with toxins day in and day out. We have this toxin. Think of your body as a bucket. And every single day that you're exposed to a toxin, a stress, it's like a little drop to the bucket. Boom, boom, boom. Over years and years of being exposed to these toxins, all of a sudden, this bucket starts to overflow. And that's when we start to show symptoms and disease and inflammation. And then we have all these chronic conditions that start to develop. And it's because our body's been bombarded for all these years. And what most people don't realize is that since World War II, which was known as the Chemical Revolution, we have had now an introduction of over 100,000 different unique man-made unnatural chemicals in our environment. So a lot has changed in the past 70 years. And it's no surprise that disease is going up, mental disorders are going up. Everything is still a problem, even though we have the best medical system in the United States. And I strongly believe that it's the toxins in our food, in our air, and in our water that are causing this problem. And our bodies just can't keep up. So today, my goal for you, step 1 of any kind of detox is we need to stop exposing yourself to these toxins. So I know we're talking about pregnancy and utero and getting ready for baby, but in general, these tips are going to be good for everybody for the rest of your life. So share this with your family and friends. This is what everybody should be doing. So my goal today is teach you how to stop exposing yourself to toxins in situations that you can control. Because obviously we can't control the air. Right. We can't control what's in the water and the soil. So you can't stress about that stuff. But here's the things that you can focus on. So we have this little toxin bucket. So there's toxins that go in there. There's trauma and there's infection. It leads to all sorts of problems. Okay. So what are we going to talk about today? Here's just a brief list and then we'll dive into each specifically. So tap water and unfiltered water is the first thing to avoid. Next is vegetable oils. We'll talk about those. Diet, gluten-free, processed junk foods. These are things that are in packages and boxes and bags. Non-organic meats and produce. Plastics, mercury, specifically, we're going to highlight fish. Aluminum sources that you can avoid. And we're going to talk about commercial cleaning products pretty briefly. And we're going to give you some healthy swaps for each of these. So let's dive into water. So water. So the EPA sets standards for safe drinking water, but they only require that local townships monitor for 80 chemicals. Other third-party companies and independent companies and nonprofits who have tested the water supply have found thousands of chemicals in our water supply, and they're not filtered out. And what's interesting is, so they're not filtered out is what I was going to say. So we need to be diligent about filtering our own water and drinking from the clean water supply. So we want to avoid tap water. We want to avoid unfiltered water, and we want to avoid anything from the fridge. Don't rely on just fridge filters. So think about all the things that you put in your sink, all your cleaners, all your chemicals, anything that goes in your toilet, your urinating, your feces, right? They found medications in our water supply because the metabolites get excreted in urine. There's all sorts of things in our water. So what do we do instead? So the first thing that we want to do is how to get clean water. The best natural source of water is going to be your spring water. This is your mineral water. These are like your Aquapanas, your Green Mountain Valleys. Speaking of, right here, Pellegrinos, all of those types of spring waters are going to be the best source because they naturally contain a lot of minerals. Now, when it comes to well water, you can drink your well water. You really should test it annually, minimum biannually. You can find local water testing companies in your area, and they'll come out and test it for you. But it's important to know what is in your water supply. You don't know what your neighbors are putting on their lawns and everything like that, and what they're dumping into the grounds and things like that source. When it comes to filtered water, the absolute best filtered water is via reverse osmosis. So you can go to Whole Foods and get a big jug and get a reverse osmosis water filter. You can also get this installed in your home underneath your kitchen sink. So the units are about $300, maybe $350. So they can be a little pricey. If you do decide to get one installed, it's pretty easy. A plumber can come out in one day and do it in an hour. You can do it at home too if you just YouTube it. My husband did it on his own, which was nice. But if you purchase a reverse osmosis filtration system, you want to buy one that has remineralization and also has a UV light in there. So so what happens with reverse osmosis is it removes everything from the water, but you want to be putting your minerals back in. So this system will already do that for you. Otherwise, you can buy like liquid trace mineral drops that you can put into your water if you decide not to do that. And then the UV light kills bacteria, microorganisms. It's just a way that we can clean the water supply that way. So best filtered water is reverse osmosis. You can get this installed in your kitchen. Use it for cooking, for washing your vegetables, when you boil anything with water. This is what you want to be using. The next thing that you can buy is a tabletop water filter. The best one out on the market is called a Berkey water filter. Again, this is another investment. It's about $300. Now, you can use those other tabletop filters, which you can get at like Targets and things like that. At minimum, if you're going to do anything, buy the Zero water filter or the Brita filters. Those are still going to be better than your refrigerator filters. So at minimum, if you can at least make that investment, and then eventually you can work up into these better options. Now, if it's in your budget, you can get a whole home water filtration system. These can run anywhere from between $2,000 and $5,000. So it really just depends. So this is a website that you can go check out. It's called radiantlifecatalog.com. They have a whole home filtration system. It's got a 10-year life on it. And so far we've been using it in our house. I've been really enjoying that. So
that's awesome.
Yeah. So these are all your water sources.
Cool.
Now, next is vegetable oils. So vegetable oils, these are the oils that you want to avoid. These are man-made. They would have never existed without modern chemicals and modern machinery. A lot of these oils that we're going to talk about, the way that they extract them, they actually use hexane. Hexane's in the petroleum industry. That's the gasoline industry. Yeah. And they need to use these harsh chemicals, and then they have to deodorize the oils because they smell, and they bleach them so that they don't have weird colors in them. And then they add different colors in them and make them what they're supposed to look like. It's just a slew of processed stuff that we don't want in our bodies. So what are these vegetable oils? So first is margarine. It's those buttery spreads. It's the vegan butters. When you read the ingredients list, you'll see it doesn't have normal, it's not real butter, right? It's fake. So you'll see canola oil is another, corn oil, vegetable oil, soybean, grapeseed, sunflower, safflower, and peanut oil. So you want to be avoiding these. Here's why this is important. Our brain and our bodies are made up of almost all fat. Our skin cells, every single cell in our body is 50% fat. And then our brain cells, think of our babies, right? Over 60% of our brain is made up of fat. So we want to be giving the good fats to the body. Now, these vegetable oils, you'll also see on food labels, hydrogenated and partially hydrogenated. Back in 2005, the FDA has labeled, they're called trans fats, anything that's hydrogenated, it increases our risk for heart disease. And Harvard has done studies on this too, where it increases our risk for heart disease by 23% if so many calories in our day are from these oils. So here's your to-do list, is to read your packaged foods that you have at home. If you see any of these in there, toss it and find better alternatives. If you see hydrogenated and partially hydrogenated, absolutely throw that out. That's the trans fats. And so they have been banned. However, because of shelf life, you may still find these products on store shelves in the year 2022, but hopefully by next year, you won't have to worry about that hydrogenation trans fat issue. So here, what are the healthy swaps? What fats should we be eating? So here's what we should be eating. These should ideally be from organic and grass-fed sources, and you're going to see why. So coconut oil, palm oil, and MCT oil, butter or ghee, bacon fat, beef tallow, which is beef fat, chicken fat, lamb fat, full fat, raw, grass-fed dairy, eggs, meat, and seafood. These are all animal sources, so we want them to be clean. As humans and animals do this too, when we're exposed to toxins, our body does not want this floating around in our blood because it's irritating the lining of our blood vessels, which causes those little micro tears, and that's where you have the artery diseases and the heart disease. We don't want it going to our brain. So what our body does in order to protect itself is it stores it in fat and it stores it in tissue. So you are what you eat, but you're also what that thing ate. So if you're going to be eating fat from an animal, you want to get it from a clean animal. So choose always organic and grass-fed sources when it comes to purchasing these fats. Now, here's some other oils that are really healthy for you. Again, you want to buy these organic, cold pressed. You want to buy them in dark bottles so that the light's not getting in there, sealed, glass bottles. Olive oil, sesame oil, macadamia nut, walnut, avocado, nuts and seeds, including their butters, and flaxseed oil. These are all healthy swaps. So take a note of what you're using in your kitchen and what you're not using, and start switching some things around and start reading your packaged foods again, guys. So here's the next food group to really avoid. And this is packaged foods, diet foods, gluten-free foods, low-fat foods. They're processed. You have to understand these foods, they take a whole food and they take a little part from it and put it in this product. They take another whole food, take a little part from that, and they make these like frankenfoods. They don't behave the same way. So these manufacturers have to add chemicals, stabilizers, fillers, emulsifiers to try and make the product taste a certain way, look a certain way, feel a certain way in your mouth. It's all engineered to be very delicious for you, right? So we just don't need those chemicals in our body. So the less that you have of those things, the better. So when you avoid these, when you eat these foods, you're going to be exposed to GMOs, which are genetically modified foods, chemicals, preservatives, food colorings, and they're loaded with tons of sugar. So what do you do instead? So if you buy organic, you're immediately not going to get any GMOs. You're not going to get any food colorings. If there are food colorings in these products, they're more likely to be using fruits and vegetables for their colorings, which are safer. You won't get chemicals or preservatives either. So what's really great about this is you're avoiding a lot of those issues. So if you just buy organic, you're going to be better. You just still have to look at the sugar. So not every organic product that's in a box package is good for you. So still be a label detective. So we want you to read your food labels. And I like to call this the 5x5 rule. You want your product to have less than 5 ingredients, and you want it to have less than 5 grams of sugar per serving. So be a label detective. If you can read everything in the product, you're good to go. If there's something that you're not sure about, maybe put it back on the shelf and find something different, or make it at home on your own. Organic, non-organic meats and produce. Here's why we need to avoid this. So number one, pesticides. So pesticides in produce and meats, they are basically another fancy word for antibiotics. Their job is to kill bugs so that they don't eat the plants and things like that. When we eat these pesticides, we're actually wiping out some of our good bacteria in our GI tract. And our belly and our GI tract is where our happy hormones live. It's where 80% of our immune system lives, because when things come into the body through the mouth, the immune system in the gut's got to go, "Ooh, I don't know what that is. I'm going to tag it and get rid of it." So we don't want to disrupt that immune system balance in our guts. It's probably the biggest thing that I deal with in my office right now is gut problems and things like that. So Food hormones is another thing. We don't need any more external hormones than our body's already making. You're going to get exposed to antibiotics, which is leading to antibiotic resistance. And then you're also going to get different nutrient contents. They found that organic foods have more nutrients in them than non-organic. So what are your healthy swaps? A good way to just avoid all this stuff is to buy organic grass-fed meat. You're going to avoid all of those things automatically. So it makes it easy. You don't have to think about it. Shop at locals farmers markets. Yardley has a great farmers market here in Newtown. Wrightstown has a great one. Talk to your farmers. Ask them, do you put chemicals on your crops? Do you put chemicals in your meats? They'll be honest with you. Look them in the eye. They want to do good by you too. So just be diligent and shop locally because you're also supporting a local business.
Yeah, heck yes.
If you want to get delivery, grasslandbeef.com and butcherbox.com are two resources for you guys.
Awesome. Is there a farm that I know we've talked about this before, but just for all of our listeners, are there certain farms that you love?
Yeah.
And that you support locally? Which farms are they?
Yeah, so there's one in this area called Birchwood Farms in Newtown, PA. And that is a dairy farm, but they also sell beef and chicken and no soy chicken, pastured eggs. They have raw dairy. They have delicious ice cream. And they also partner with local farmers in the area too to carry some other pork products, and they have raw honey. So Birchwood Farms, Newtown, check it out.
Awesome.
If you want to find more local farms, guys, that's a really good question. Eatwild.com. You can type in your zip code and it'll tell you all the local farms in the area.
Awesome. Awesome.
Okay. So we're going to keep going because there's some more toxins here. We're going to talk about plastics. So plastics, why do we want to avoid these? Plastics are hormone disruptors. They look like estrogen. It's the whole thing with BPA. So what that does is it disrupts the signaling in our body. It lowers our own production. It could increase our own production. It mimics it. It just causes a lot of confusion with cell signaling. And when we're raising a baby and we're getting ready for baby, we don't want our estrogen levels messed with. So this is why we want to avoid plastic. So where are the most common sources? Plastic wrap. Plastic water bottles, huge, huge, huge. If the plastic water bottles are crinkly and bending and malleable, you're releasing plastic into that product. You also want to avoid plastic travel bottles, plastic storage containers as well, and plastic Ziplocs. So when you use these products, if you do, because I still use some plastic at my house, there's some rules to follow if you do. Number one, never expose it to heat. And number two, don't expose it to an acid. So like that's lemon juice and vinegars and things like that, because that'll start to break down the plastic. So keep that in mind if you have plastic in your house, only for cold purposes. So what are some healthy swaps in using plastic in your home? So one is glass water bottles, glass travel bottles, glass storage containers, glass baking dishes with glass lids, stainless steel, anything. They do sell stainless steel storage containers, which are lightweight, which are better for travel. Silicone, anything silicone is safe because it doesn't start to deteriorate until like 450 degrees. And don't quote me on that temperature, but it's pretty high. So there's like little silicone things that you can stretch and put over containers and jars when you're putting things in your refrigerator. And there's little things that you can bake with as well with the silicone stuff. And then there's also another wrap you can buy. It's a beeswax wrap. This also can replace your plastic wrap. Okay.
Awesome.
Mercury. Okay, mercury. So we're going to talk about fish. How are the fish getting mercury is the question, right? And so what happens is we still have coal burning plants all throughout the United States. When we burn coal through industrial processing, it releases the mercury into the air, goes into the clouds, and then it rains all over all of us into our environments. That's where it's getting into the ocean and into our soils. So here are the big fish that you need to avoid especially while you're pregnant. And I would say for life. Like if I eat any of these fish, it's like once every 3 months. It's really that low. And if I do eat them, I actually take a binding medication so I can catch some of the stuff that's in there.
Awesome.
So tuna, this might be a heartbreaker for some people. Tuna fish is a really easy fish to eat. But what I'll tell you is when you go to the store, there's two different varieties. There's an albacore tuna and a skipjack. What we have found is that skipjack is the better variety. It has less mercury in it in comparison. So if you were to do that, go for the skipjack variety. There's also another brand out there called Safe Catch, and they actually measure the amount of mercury in the product. And there's a lot of companies doing that now. So look for those labels. No mercury, tested for mercury. So always, always, always. Now I'll go through this list real quick. It's shark, marlin, king mackerel, swordfish, tilefish, orange roughy, and northern pike. So these are the fish that you want to avoid. And in general, it's because these fish are huge. They live a very long life. They eat all the smaller fish and they just accumulate and accumulate and accumulate and accumulate. And then when we eat them, we get that as well. So Those are the fish you always want to avoid. Here's the fish that you want to prioritize, and this should be eaten while you are pregnant, for sure. So these were chosen because they're either higher in omega-3s, they're low in mercury, or they're sustainably raised. So we have salmon, we have sardines, mussels, anchovies, rainbow trout, Atlantic mackerel, oysters, and pollock. So, and one more, herring. So these are the fishes that you want to prioritize when you are. There is a larger list of good fishes that you should eat. I'll give you that resource at the end. But if you can focus on salmon, that is going to be a huge one. That is the best source of omega-3s in the fish world. So if you could at least eat that 2 to 3 times a week and get wild caught, you'll be great with that. You want to avoid farmed fish unless it's Whole Food Responsibly Farmed is a trusted brand. You can go on their website and read what their standards are for that, and it's actually pretty good. So you can trust Whole Foods Responsibly Farmed, but I wouldn't trust any fish that comes from China or Japan or anywhere else.
Okay.
Other mercury sources, I'm just going to touch on these briefly. So where else are we getting mercury from? Avoid mercury. Number 1, vaccines. Unfortunately, they do put mercury in vaccines. It's in the preservative thimerosal. So if you are going to go over the vaccine route, just ask for the ingredients list, take a look at it, and you can make a decision whether or not you want to administer it or not. The next thing is cleaning products. The other is silver fillings in your mouth. So they've done studies that show that if you have silver in your mouth, they test your saliva, they can measure the amount of mercury that's in there. And at any given point, there's always an amount in your saliva. And that's because every time that you chew or you drink something warm, you actually release up to 10 to 100 times more mercury in your mouth. So I recommend that if you have silver fillings in your mouth, that you should get these removed. However, I would not do this while you are currently pregnant, because that is the worst exposure is when you're poking at it. So IAOMT.org is a holistic dentistry website. They have a ton of information about mercury on there, so you can educate yourself more, and you can find a local holistic dentist who will remove the fillings appropriately. Do not go to just your regular dentist to get this removed. When I got mine removed by a holistic dentist, I'll tell you what I had to wear. I had to put on a nasal cannula to filter my air that I was breathing. I had to swish my mouth with this brown, dark, black charcoal chlorella type solution to catch it as they were poking at it. It would catch it and I would spit it out. They wore something that looked like painter's masks on their face, and they were in a special ventilated room. For something that's this small in your mouth, that's the amount of measures that they take. And that's because the NIH has labeled it as carcinogenic, because it has a really strong affinity to our brain and our tissues, especially our brain. So don't mess around with silver fillings. Don't get it taken out while you're pregnant, but this would be something you would do before or maybe after. And you want to go to IAOMT to do that. So let's talk about aluminum. Aluminum is another thing. So these are the 2 most common heavy metals that we run into. So aluminum, where do we get it? Cans, aluminum foil, vaccines, deodorants. And I'm going to show you this. This is a Big Dove deodorant. If you look at that, aluminum right there. All right. So check your deodorant. Don't have aluminum in there. There's no place in the body for it. Baked goods. The reason why, baking powder of all things has aluminum in it. So read your food label, read your food labels. If you ever see the word aluminum, get rid of it. No place for it. Cosmetics have it, and so do our dental fillings. So this is the things that you want to avoid, and I'm going to tell you about a good swap. Commercial cleaning products, this is another thing to avoid. I'm not going to go into all the ingredients here, but just know if you're smelling it, if it's chemicals, it's bad for you. So here's what I want you to use instead. So when you want to look up cleaning products and you want to look up products that you're putting into and onto your body, I want you to use the Think Dirty app. This is what it looks like. And this is just an example I'm going to show you. So I looked up laundry detergent, and what it does is it gives these products a rating. So to the right, you'll see Tide. To the left, you'll see a product called 7th Generation. And so you'll see that you want to avoid the things that are in red, which is anything that's 4 or above. It's orange and then red. You want to stick to green things. So go ahead and download this app and start going up to your products into your house. Hey, let's see what this is. Let's see what this is. Let's see what this is. Your dish soap, laundry detergent, your lotions, your toothpaste, your mouthwash. See what they rate. If it's up to you, if you want to throw it out, if it's a bad rating, I would recommend that, but I understand money is money. But just know that when you go to replace it, use the Think Dirty app to find a better replacement.
Awesome.
Okay. Now, when it comes to cosmetics, credobeauty.com. They're like an online distributor for everything safe. Beauty Counter is another website. And you can also go to Organin's Natural Food Market. They have a ton of great cleaning products, body care, and things like that that are safe and natural. And you can also test it on the Think Dirty app.
Awesome.
So those are all the things that should be avoided.
Cool. I think at first it can be overwhelming to
Mhm.
make all of these healthy swaps or to research all of the things. And so it's just about like making one small change,
Yeah.
whether that's one cleaning product. Money is a huge thing. So I know when we were swapping out a lot of my cleaning products, it's not like because they are expensive, it's not like I threw everything out all at once. It would be like small replacements, looking for brands that I loved, things like that. Or when it comes to makeup and beauty products, it's like just small things at a time.
Right.
When it comes to the water filtration system as well, I wanted to mention that we do have a Berkey filter in office. We also have the Berkey water filters. When Trey and I were hiking, we actually just used the stream water because it had little filters within the water bottle. And then we were also looking into getting the shower filter heads as well. And I know you mentioned it about the piece that can go under the sink as well, but also thinking about, what exactly are we showering and bathing and so on and so
Yeah.
forth.
Yeah. They've shown that like just absorbing what you could absorb in a 20-minute shower is
Mhm.
equal to drinking 8 cups of water.
Yeah, that's
Because
crazy.
your pores open up.
Yeah.
So yeah, so shower filter, that's a good one. Aquasana is a great one that you can get on Amazon. Change it every
Wow.
6 months.
Yeah. But just thinking about like, hey, what are some small swaps that fits into the budget that I can do next month or incorporates, and then you're making these small changes and overall impacting your health, which I think is super beneficial.
Yep.
Okay, what are we off to next?
So just to talk about, I guess, this really interesting study that I came across. So toxins accumulate from the mother into the baby in utero. So this was a surprising study that I saw.
Oh,
And so the EWG is the Environmental Working Group. They're nonprofit. They're all about healthy planet, healthy people. And so they did a study, and what they did was they measured umbilical cord blood to see how many toxins were in it. And so they looked at, I think it was about 413 chemicals. And what they found was that in the umbilical cord blood of all these babies, they found over 287 different chemicals. And what we found is that 180 of those were known to cause cancer. And so it's a little alarming that our babies are being exposed to some of these things during utero, but that's something that's out of our control, right? So what we can do moving forward is as soon as they come out, you're going to start using those organic products on them. You're going to use the Think 30 app to use the cleaning products that are safe. So these are just the little things that you can start doing. And the less exposure that they have, the more they'll be able to get rid of these chemicals as they're younger. Babies and children are so resilient because their bodies are young and healthy and strong. So they can come back from anything pretty quickly.
that's awesome. Heck
So
yeah.
that was an interesting study.
That is super interesting.
You came across the Tylenol. Do you have any questions about that the utero thing?
No, just like I know there was a study about the same thing with the umbilical cord, also with the placenta, which is, we know that connects the same thing basically. So the same chemicals that you would find in the umbilical cord would also be found in the placenta, which I thought was super fascinating. Even from chemicals, like you said, were banned so like a long time ago. But the Tylenol study I thought was super interesting. That came out pretty recently about the harmful effects of taking certain medications during pregnancy, which is why we have you on, because with pharmacy this is more of your scope. But I just thought it was super interesting how it can impact baby. And I know a lot of things we are just scratching the surface when it comes to research and information.
Yep.
So I just thought it was super interesting.
Yeah. So, I mean, these are some of the headlines that came out more recently. Acetaminophen use during pregnancy linked to ADHD. Tylenol could be risky for pregnant women, right? Because Tylenol is a go-to. It's the one that is approved for pain and fever during pregnancy. But what they're showing in this study was that they looked at the past 25 years of research with Tylenol, and they found a link with things such as brain development, and specifically ADHD and some other brain conditions. They looked at reproductive organs and hormone levels, and also urogenital disorders, where like children's testicles, like little baby boys' testicles weren't descending and things like that. And so this was an observational study that came out. When it comes to literature, it's not the strongest of evidence. So it doesn't mean it's actually causing it. They can't prove that with these kinds of studies. Right. But what this study basically did was it looked at all the history, and it started to see these patterns and made these correlations. And so this study just raised awareness to the medical community that said, hey, you know what? We're seeing some funny things going on here. We need to do bigger studies on this. We need to control for how long are they taking it for, the dose that they're taking, during which trimester. So they were just kind of increasing awareness that more studies need to be done. Now, it doesn't dismiss what they found. I think that it's still very important. A lot of what they discussed was in mouse models and rat models, which doesn't really extrapolate to humans, but still it's good to know, but that just says, hey, we need to study in humans. And so what I would say is that what they noticed was that the brain issues that they found in some of these studies, like the ADHD, occurred when mothers took the Tylenol in the first trimester and early second trimester. And then when it came to the urogenital disorders and the organs not forming correctly or reproductive disorders, it was in the second and third trimester. So unfortunately, at any point in time, it seems like you're getting one or the other. So what they found was that the longer that mothers took it, like more than 2 weeks straight, that was when they saw a significant change in some of these things. So here's the moral of the story is, if you're having a headache or maybe some mild pain or something that's like not as serious, don't take Tylenol if you don't need it. If you have a fever, absolutely. There's actually studies that show that a fever can be harmful for a baby. So it is important to lower your fever in those situations. So the risk outweighs the benefit there. So what I would say is only if it's absolutely needed, only when your doctor tells you that you should take it. And if it's for a fever or extreme pain, shortest time necessary, smallest dose necessary. So that's the moral of the story. So if you can avoid it, that's the goal.
Yeah, that's so good to know, because I think when we see the headlines and we are, reading just the beginning paragraph of the research, sometimes it can get daunting or scary. So that's some great points that you brought up, just about like understanding the depth of the research and the research that still has to come about, so on and so forth. So,
but
awesome.
that's great. It's good. Hopefully they'll do more research. It's just it's challenging to do research in pregnant women. It becomes unethical, right? Because it's for risk. So we'll see what comes of it, but I'm excited that at least they discovered some of this stuff.
Yeah.
So finally, here's some golden nuggets. This is everything in summary. There's so many good resources in here for you guys. Resources for healthy living, right? So clean food. Remember, we want to buy organic. We want to do local. The local grocer in the area here is Organin's Natural Market. Everything in there is wonderful. If you want to buy some pantry items online, there's a website called thrivemarket.com. Remember to find local farms. You want to go to Eat Wild. And reminder, meat delivery is grassland beef or butcher box. Online resources. So here's some apps. So Think Dirty, we didn't talk about this one. EWG has a healthy living app. What makes EWG different is they also talk about food. Think Dirty doesn't do that. Okay. So that's what the EWG symbol looks like. So download that, get poking around. And then what I want to share with you too is she is a physician, a functional medicine doctor. Her name is Dr. Wendy Myers. She is amazing. Check out her website. She specializes in heavy metals, but she's got a ton of information on her website. She also has a podcast that you can listen to where she has guests come on. It's a lot of where I learn a lot of my toxin information. Myers Detox Podcast. Check it out, myersdetox.com. And then I want to dive into the EWG. So this is that environmental working group. They are a wonderful, wonderful website. This should be in your favorites tabs after you close this video. So ewg.org. What do they have? They talk about personal care, cleaning, and food. They have a ton of consumer guides, and this is where it becomes important for mommies, okay? So they have diaper guides, cereal guides, guides to infant formula and baby bottles, toxic chemicals in bath products. So go check them out, go read those articles. Now for adults and even for children, they have other things too. They have the EWG Dirty Dozen Cancer Prevention Guide. They talk about the 12 dirtiest chemicals that are in our food supply and products and how to avoid them and what to get instead. They also have a Skin Deep database. What this is a cosmetic database. If you read one of your products and you can't pronounce something and you want to know what it is, go to the Skin Deep website, type in that weird sounding long ingredient that you see, and it'll bring up everything about it and give it a rating if it's good or bad and tell you why it's good or bad.
Awesome.
Sunscreen guides, tap water database. Guys, you can put your zip code in and find out what's in your water. I did this and I found out that in my water supply here in Newtown, we have something called hexavalent chromium. If anybody remembers the movie with called Erin Brockovich with, what's her name? Julia Roberts. This was the famous lawsuit that came from a true story. There was hexavalent chromium in the water and they did this class action lawsuit and they won. So I found out that that's in the Newtown water supply. So that's why I installed a whole home water filter. Healthy cleaning guide, food additives, pesticides. There's a dirty dozen list. So those you should always buy organic because no matter how much you clean them, they're still dirty with pesticides. And then there's a seafood guide as well with a more extensive list for what you should eat. So guys, thank you so much for your time.
You are the best. I don't know if anyone else, but my mind is completely blown.
Yeah, it was a lot of
So
information.
much
One
information.
step at a time, one step at a time. Don't overwhelm yourself. But now you have everything you need to make the change when you're ready.
Perfect. So if people have more questions for you, or want to reach out to you, how can people contact you?
Sure. So there's my email. It's my first name at lifemodsolutions.com, or you can visit my website, lifemodsolutions.com. You can follow me on all my Facebook and Instagrams. It's at LifeMod Solutions, and there's my Twitter.
Cool.
So reach out to me,
Yeah.
and I can certainly give you guys a help with anything that you need.
Awesome. And then for our Pax Speaks or our listeners, Dr. Loredana's contact information will be in the comments. We also will post it on Facebook. For our Pax moms that come in, you have Dr. Loredana's information in your pregnancy or newly postpartum in your patient packet. So if you have any questions, you know how to reach Dr. Loredana. Thank you so much. This was so helpful and beneficial, and really an awesome kickstart to our entire series. The information, again, is still blowing my mind. So you're definitely going to have to listen a couple of times and make sure you're taking detailed notes. But again, if you have any questions over anything, do not hesitate to reach out. And we appreciate you. Thank you so much for the work that you are doing for all of us in the community.
Hey, you too. Thank you. Have a great day, guys.
You too. We'll talk soon.
Bye-bye.